So we got our first foster placement. That means that the episode you're going to hear today of Explore Your Enthusiasm is actually by a guest host, Stacey Trock, all about how to take parental leave. Stacey teaches a class about this on Creative Live, which I totally recommend you go check out. She is a social media manager and a good friend. She's built amazing businesses in the handmade world. Go check her out at staceytrock.com. And I hope you enjoy these guest episodes we're gonna have for the next few weeks. So I'm officially on parental leave, which means I haven't yet figured out my recording schedule. So we've got 2 episodes from Stacey, one that I had recorded ahead of time, and an episode or 2 of from Jolie of joliecreates.com. So I hope you enjoy these episodes. I would love to hear and see how you're listening to them. Take a screenshot of your screen and share it on Instagram stories, and be sure you tag me. I'm at Tara Swiger. Instagram stories is where I'm at even when I'm no place else, because it's easy to do in the minute. Right now I'm recording this while the baby sleeps in the car. If you want to know more about the baby and how you can help foster parents and how you can help us with this, go check out the vlog, How to Help Foster Parents and Children. It's over on YouTube, which you can find at taraswiger.com/YouTube. Just click on videos and you'll see it. It's one of the most recent ones. Now let's get into this episode of Explore Your Enthusiasm.
Thanks so much for having me on the podcast today. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that's super timely and relevant, taking leave from your business. So I'm filling in today because Tara is taking some family leave, and it's also something that I've done in my business is take some time out. And so today I'm going to be talking all about how to do it and some steps that you can take so that taking leave doesn't negatively impact your business. Everyone in their life at some point probably has to take leave. We have a stereotype that it's for a new parent, or I mean, that's probably the most common case, but there's loads of reasons to take leave. For me, they fall into 2 categories: planned and unplanned leave. So examples of planned leave could be bringing a new member into your family. It could be having a medical procedure. Let's say you need a knee replacement or something that you know is at a fixed date. That's a form of a planned leave, and you'll need to have recovery time. And in some cases, caring for an aging parent could be a form of planned leave. You know that at X date they're going to move to this facility and you'll be working with them. There's also unplanned leave, which is a lot trickier to plan for because it's unplanned. You could have a medical emergency at any time, which could cause you to need to step back from your business, or a family member could have an emergency. So those are all situations that it's wise to have certain procedures and steps in place so that you can take a step back. Not all kinds of leave are negative. A lot, the academic profession does this, but a lot of people might want to plan to have a sabbatical, which is in some sense taking a leave from your business, but it's a time where you're just in the creative zone and you're just brainstorming, or you're just doing things that aren't the day-to-day running of your business. And that's another form of leave that isn't negative. It's not even, it's actually good for your business to do that sort of thing. It's putting more creative time into your business instead of the day-to-day operations. So those are all possibilities that are out there. The first thing you want to do when you're planning a leave, so mostly I'm going to be talking about a planned leave. There are procedures that are always good operational procedures that you should have in place should an unplanned leave come up, and I'll be touching on those points. But for a planned leave, you first want to develop a timeline. What is going to happen? When's it going to happen? What kind of time am I looking for? So let's just take an example of a new member coming into the family, because that's sort of the easiest. Well, that's the one I did. That's the one Tara's doing. It's sort of the easiest example that comes to your mind. That would be a certain amount of time that you want completely off. Let's say you don't even want to think about it for X amount of time. And then very normally there's an amount of time that I would call maintenance mode. So where your time is kind of split, but you're getting back into your business, you're doing tasks, but maybe you don't have the full attention and time to dedicate it to. And you want to think about how long each of those time periods are. Now, a really important aspect that plays into it isn't just the amount of time you want to take off, like in Fantasyland, but the practical matters of your budget. So for most people, it comes into play not just how much time do you want to take off, but how much time can you afford to take off. So that's those are numbers, and I'm going to talk about how to do this, that you actually want to put together. It's very hard to plan these things well without looking at a history of your numbers. I know, Tara tells us to do, get out your sheets, get out some numbers, you can't just wiggy wig it. And then there's the time, that's the timeline piece. I also want you to think about your goals. So for me personally, when I took my leave, my goal was a maintenance of keeping my current customers and clients happy and content. I wasn't anticipating growth in my business, and I also was hoping that I didn't have a serious decline in so I knew there would be some decline because I wasn't doing as many new product launches, but no serious decline in terms of losing customers because my business was functioning poorly. So that for me was my goal. Another kind of goal may be I need to make X amount of money, right? There's lots of different goals that are completely legitimate, but you need to be clear on what your goals are for this time period. If you're taking kind of a more sabbatically kind of one, you may have goals around, you know, writing X number of ebooks or writing X number, you know, doing X number of things. And it's really important to have goals in place both before and during the procedure. The thing I always say, and this is never more true than in a taking leave scenario, is there are only 3 things in the world, and they're all balancing each other all the time. So you have time, you have energy, and you have money. And almost anything you do is trading those off. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the specifics of how to look at your past budgeting to start planning, but I want you to keep in mind that's all you got. And these vary at different phases of your business. So a lot of times when you your business was more at the beginning stages, maybe you had a lot of time and not a lot of money. And so you would maybe take some photographs yourself because it took you more time, but it saved you money, right? As your business grows, a lot of people find themselves having more money in the business, but maybe less time because there's so many demands on your time, or maybe less energy. And so that's a really important balance to keep in mind. So for me, because my goal during my leave was to not lose customers, I knew there were certain things that I was going to have to spend money on to get my time back. And that's a very normal trade-off for people to make. So if you want to go on a leave and you want to make sure this process is still running smoothly and you don't have the time to dedicate it, it's likely you might have to hire someone to step in. So that's a balance I want you to be thinking about the whole time as we go through this, because it's just, there's no way around it. And that's true at all levels of your business, but it's really true when you're, what leave is taking time out of the equation. So one thing you can do is energy, which is planning a lot more in advance, spending that time and energy in advance to put in, or spending money to fix a problem, basically. Okay, so one thing I think is super important for anyone planning any kind of leave is to get an accurate assessment of what's going on right now. So you need to know what money is coming in, and you also need to know how you're spending your time. And one thing I'm going to recommend that's different from maybe what you've done previously with your budgeting and things like that is I want you to take your whole life into account. So you have 24 hours in a day. I hope you believe it's really important to sleep for 8 of them. So you have that remaining time, and your real life like your non-business life, are things that can actually be traded in this leave scenario. So just as a simple example, let's say you can only spend 4 hours a day on your business, or 2 hours a day on your business, let's say. Let's cut it really down. Maybe you think it's worth hiring a cleaner to clean your house to reclaim some of that time from your personal life for now your work life. I think it's really important to document your whole life. I would go through a good 2-week period that seems pretty boring and normal to you in your business and write down what you're doing. There's lots of tools for you to do this. I don't think you need to be super specific. I would make a couple categories about, you know, home maintenance, business, etc., and get an overall picture first. And then probably within business, I'm going to talk about this later, you'll need to break those categories down more. But first, get an idea of where you're spending your time and what you have to work with. Okay. Similarly, you need to get a complete budget. What are your current income? What are your current expenses? You can't really make decisions without these numbers. You've done that. You have the landscape of your life, and let's say you're generally working 8 hours a day. Okay, great. Now we're going to spend more time, maybe another week or two, diving into what are those business hours look like. How many hours are you answering email? How many are product development? How many are futzing around on Facebook, which you're kind of counting during your business hours, but I don't know, you're just interacting, right? You're going to break your business category down more, and you're now going to pull in your budget, your business budget. And now I need you to identify what are your top earners per hour. Okay, so now we really need to start attributing dollar amounts to the activities we're doing. So when you're thinking about taking a step back from your business, you're separating the wheat from the chaff. There are things that are really important for long-term business growth, such as maybe interacting on Facebook, you know, things like that. Your leave period is going to be a time, if you have financial or business goals during this time period, where you really say, you know, those things that aren't bringing in an income or aren't really driving the business forward are going to be things that I just don't spend the time doing right now. So that's really important, to take your budget, to take what income's coming in, and line it up with how you're spending your time. So if you have a product launch and that takes you X number of hours and that's like your biggest income earner, most people find that it's really quite possible to cut out a whole lot of work and focus just on what's successful, what's earning you money. And of course, there's some measures of success that aren't money, but usually it's money, and focus on those. So even without doing anything bold in your business, most people will find they can trim an hour or two just by getting rid of friffy-fraffy, and probably cut their work down to half if they're being super efficient about which projects they're taking on. So I know for me personally, my leave schedule went like this. I went for 6 months, I went on partial leave. So that meant I had the goal of spending no more than 2 hours a day in my business. So that was maintaining some emails, working on some projects. 2 hours is a pretty strict timetable. And during that time, I would not do any guest appearances. I would not do any guest posts, sorts of things that in general are good for your business, kind of good exposure, but that didn't make the cut when I was looking at per hour. This is all I got and this is what I have to do. So that's important for you to figure out for your business, because that relates back to those goals you set earlier. There are usually, as I said earlier, 2 phases of a leave. Not everyone does 2 phases. It's very typical for a leave period, if it's a hospitalization, a medical issue, a new family member, to have a small complete leave period. Like, you are not even going to touch the computer, blah, I don't even want to hear about it. And then what I'm calling like a maintenance mode period. So You also, before this leave period starts, once you have all of your plans for how you're going to maintain a business on a really short time period, need to have some plans for that complete leave period. So let's say you're getting knee surgery, you're getting a knee replacement, you know there's going to be a week where you are in the hospital, having surgery, hopped up on pain meds, like you just don't want to function during that period at all. Then you're going to enter a period of only having 3 hours a day, the maintenance mode period. Okay, so then we've identified your tasks that are really important to do on a small number of time per day. Now, before this period begins, we're going to start doing some pre-planning. Okay, so are there projects you can do now which you can drip out during either your absolute leave period or during your maintenance mode period? I actually advocate for the time where you're planning on completely leaving to just be open and legit that you're completely leaving. So I think unless you have a staff in place, if you're taking a week off and not able to answer emails, etc., it's probably best to put your Etsy shop on vacation, put up an autoresponder and really just say, I'm gone for the week, this is what's going on. If you have really great systems in place, you have some staff that answers emails, and you feel comfortable, it is possible to run a leave. You have things in a Meet Edgar queue, you're doing Instagram posts to pretend like nothing's ever happened. So that is an option for some people. It's not usually the option most people take, because doing so requires a lot of pre-planning. One issue I do want to bring up, which is true for many kinds of leave, is the exact time period isn't always certain. I mean, so let's say you're getting knee replacement and you think you're going to be out for a week, but you know what? You had a complication and you have to go back, or some other issue arises. It's good if you were open with people, I'm in knee surgery, I'm going to be gone for a week. Most people wouldn't even bat an eye if it actually turns out to be a week and a half or 2 weeks. If you were going the route of pretending you were never gone and you ran out of Meet Edgar posts, that could cause some stress in your life that you don't need. So that's an option, but there's always a little bit of uncertainty around some of these time frames. So that's really important to keep in mind too. Okay, so back to our pre-planning. So you want to see if there's anything you can do in advance. So planning extra blog posts, planning extra product launches. For me personally, I wrote an extra blog post every week for about 6 months planning for my leave so that I could drip them out one per week during this 6-month period that I was on like partial leave. So that's always an option, but again, that's the time, energy, money exchange. I was just trading time before for time after, right? I didn't save any time. I just moved how I was spending my time. Another thing you can do is say, well, this is the time I'm going to hire out some aspects of my business. So instead of spending the time before, spending a little bit of money to get an item to happen later. So now I'm going to bring back in unprepared, unplanned leave, right? So the beauty of planned leave is you have the option of moving your time from before to after, right? If an emergency happens and you don't know about it, you don't have that availability anymore. So one thing I do want to really stress is that I believe in the small business world, our customers are a lot more understanding than maybe we think they are. So it's never a good idea to just disappear, dump your business for a year, and then like come back like nothing happened, right? That seems irresponsible. But saying I had an emergency, I'm sorry, I'm going to be really slow in replying for X amount of time is completely legit. So if you have an unplanned emergency, if you can do anything to communicate the message, usually an autoresponder, or if you have a Facebook group, posting something about it And then basically doing the same things I've been talking about for a planned leave. There's a period of time where you're just going to be out of the loop, and then you're going to start in a segment of time where you are doing kind of a partial leave, doing the most important tasks that matter to your business. The difference with an unplanned leave is you don't have the pre-preparation time. Okay, but I do want to go back to the issue of thinking of your life as a whole unit, because let's say you've had some unexpected leave or some unexpected emergency and need to take unplanned leave. If your top priority is I need to earn X amount because I have a mortgage payment coming and I just had this disaster happen, you're going to tap into all of your resources and all of your time. And I want to encourage you also to reach out to people for help. And this is where doing the thought, even before you're planning anything, of what's important for your business, what are your priorities. So for my example, although it was a planned leave, I just kind of said, you know what? I don't care what we eat for a few months. It's usually really important to me that we eat healthy. It's usually pretty important to me that I cook the meals for our family. You know what? We're going to be in a tough time trying to get everything done. We're going to just eat whatever. And that's, that allows me to reclaim some time from the rest of my life, from some meal prep time, and shuttle it to my business. So if you've had some kind of grand disaster or a health emergency or something, looking at your full life can allow you to regain some time, and also reaching out for help. One important thing to think about when you ask for help is to be super specific. So if you just say, hey, I'm having this problem, let me know if you can help, like, that doesn't motivate anyone to action. I mean, sometimes it does, but it really doesn't often. If you can say, I'm doing this thing, I really need someone who can come over on Tuesdays for an hour and help me clean my house. Or I really need someone on a Thursday who could bring me like a frozen lasagna. Can anyone do that? That's a specific request for help. That's really going to save you a lot of effort. So that's a great thing to think about. Okay, now one thing that I know I hesitated for a really, really long time to do in my business was hiring help. And this is an important time to think about this, because if you're trying to cut the number of hours you spend in your business, a good way to do that would be to hire someone to do some tasks that you would usually do. So you may have read the 4-Hour Work Week. This is the Tim Ferriss book where he only works 4 hours a week. I don't know if that's anyone's goal, but you know, that's like 20 minutes a day. That's accomplished by hiring out tasks. I always recommend, before you hire out a task, step back first and get the procedures in line and documented before you go out hiring someone. So let's say you put together this kind of ebook and you always do it the same way, and you think, oh, that would be a good task to hire a graphic designer to do. Before you go looking to hire someone, take a step back and write out all of your objectives. What are the tasks that need to be completed? Because you don't want to hire someone to do things that aren't important to you, right? Someone may look at your ebook and think, wow, she always has like glitter in the margins. That's the important part, and I'm going to spend 3 hours doing that. Whereas if that wasn't terribly important to you, you don't want to pay for that. So writing out your goals of a project, and then once you have documented your goals for a project that you want to hire out, then you start looking. So a great place to look to hire out help is Upwork. That's a good website where you can find freelancers. Fiverr is another place that you can look to hire out certain kinds of smaller tasks. Or you can also use your own personal network or your professional network to find people who will do tasks for you. So obviously that's coming back to this time-money equation, and also a bit of energy, because hiring someone takes a bit of energy and training and money at the start as a trade-off for getting some of your time back. So that's always best if you can have it planned out before you start your leave. I think there would be nothing more stressful than, you know, being in a hospital bed and then trying to figure out who you're going to hire to do what. Those things are much better to do before you begin your leave, and hopefully have procedures in place so that when you begin your leave, it's a smooth transition. So we talked a bit about our schedule. Let's say you want to take a complete leave and then do maybe a couple of hours a day. One other aspect of your business that I think is really important to work out is, how do you need to spend those hours? So there are some tasks where you need to like be in a room for 2 hours, like working on the task hardcore. And there are other tasks that, yeah, you have to do them, but you can just kind of do them whenever. That kind of task, I often call them thumb tasks. Maybe it's posting the Instagram, maybe it's like liking things, you know, maybe it's sending some ideas to someone. I encourage you to steal the blocks of time that you have, right? Let's say you get 2 hours in the morning to do your big tasks, and then use bits of time later on to do the little tiny thumb tasks. I mean, this is true in the rest of planning as well. You don't want to allow a big solid chunk of time to be filled up with little frittery tasks that you could do while the pasta is boiling at 6 p.m. It's not something we generally think about. If you have an 8-hour day, we don't always plan how the tasks happen in the day because it's not terribly urgent. Once you get down to some crazy limited amount of time, that becomes really important. So something like filming a video is the kind of thing where you need a solid hour, you need absolute quiet, and that would need to be scheduled into your day. Okay, so I feel like I've thrown a lot out really fast about taking leave. I could talk about this for hours, I really could. So let me just go back over a couple of the points. First of all, a successful leave hinders on a lot of planning. So the best way to protect yourself even against an unplanned emergency is to have your business in order, have your procedures in place, and be on top of your game. And also to know what earns you money and know what you're doing kind of as future planning and growth strategies. When you're getting to the point of planning your leave, having a detailed calendar and budget to see where your time and money is going and coming from, and then economizing to pick the best things that are really key in your business and getting rid of a lot of the things that aren't. Most leaves have a complete leave period and then kind of a semi-leave period. And in that semi-leave period, you want to focus on doing the things that really, really matter most to your business. And a lot of people find that they can do pretty well even working half of the time they usually did by laser focusing on those things that matter the most. I also want you to consider your whole life. So we have time, we have energy, and we have money. It may be during your leave period you buy more food rather than cooking it, or you hire a cleaner, or you hire out some things in your business. It's not embarrassing to do those things. You're just balancing the resources you have and entering maybe a really new, awesome phase of life. So I hope you've enjoyed that super quick tutorial about taking a leave, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.